So in this lesson, we're looking at time zones. Now we'll have a look at this map of Australia here, all the capital cities labelled, and there's three basic time zones in Australia: Eastern, Central and Western Australian time. So first of all, our Eastern Australian time. Well, we've got Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne and Hobart. They're always in the same time zone. And for 6 months of the year, Brisbane is in the same time zone there, the whole east coast of Australia. In summer though, Brisbane doesn't have, or Queensland, doesn't have daylight savings time, so they run on a separate time zone during the warmer 6 months of the year. Now in Central Australia, we've got Adelaide there from South Australia. Now once again, for 6 months of the year they're grouped with Darwin, but Darwin doesn't have daylight savings time, so for the warmer 6 months they run on a separate time zone to Adelaide. And then finally, we've got Perth over here, and all of Western Australia runs in the time zone Western Australian time. Now the basic rule of thumb here is, as we move further left or west on our map, we get further behind in time. Well, let's have a look at some examples here. For part A, we're told that Perth is 3 hours behind Sydney, and we're asked what time is it in Perth when it's 5 p.m. in Sydney. Well, to do this we're going to draw a very simple diagram, basically a number line. We'll put a P for Perth at the left or western end and an S for Sydney at our right or eastern end. Important to get those basic directions right on your timeline. Now we've got 5 p.m. in Sydney, so we'll label that as well. Now we're told that Perth is 3 hours behind Sydney. So to get from Sydney to Perth we're going to the west or left. So that 3 hours time difference, we're going to take that away. So to work out our time in Perth we get 5 p.m, take away the 3 hours, and that gives us 2 p.m. in Perth. Now in part B, we're told if South Australia is 30 minutes behind Tasmania, we need to find out what time is it in Hobart when it's 10:30 a.m. in Adelaide. Let's check your knowledge of capital cities firstly. Adelaide, that's in South Australia, and Hobart, that's in Tasmania. So let's draw up our line first of all. Now Adelaide is further west or left, so we'll put an A there in South Australia, or SA, and then Hobart in Tasmania to the right. So we know it's 10:30 a.m. in Adelaide, put that on our number line. And we know that South Australia is 30 minutes behind Tasmania. So to get from South Australia to Tasmania, we're going to the east or the right. So that 30 minutes time difference is going to need to be added on here. Let's see, 10:30 a.m, add 30 minutes on, and that takes us forward to 11 a.m. in Hobart. Now in part C, we're told that Darwin is 90 minutes ahead of Perth. And when it's 11:15 a.m. in Darwin, what is the local time in Perth? Well, we'll draw our line again. Perth to the left, Darwin to the right. We know it's 11:15 a.m. in Darwin, so put that on our number line. Now Darwin is 90 minutes or 1.5 hours ahead of Perth. So to get from Darwin to Perth, we're going west. So we're going to take away that 1.5 hours. Careful with this one, 11:15 a.m. minus 1.5 hours. That brings us back to 9:45 a.m. in Perth time. Well, let's try a second example now. Here we're told Africa is divided into 4 time zones. There's Greenwich Mean Time, it says GMT, then GMT plus 0. West Africa Time Zone, or WAT, and that's GMT plus 1. Central Africa Time Zone, or CAT, and that's GMT plus 2. And lastly, East Africa Time Zone, or EAT. Now that's GMT plus 3. Well, you heard me say GMT a fair few times, didn't you? Part A, we're asked, what does GMT stand for? Well, we're told in that first time zone it stands for Greenwich Mean Time. And that's basically the time zone in London, England. And all different time zones around the world are based around GMT. Now, part B, we're asked, what's the time difference between GMT and the Central Africa time zone? Well, there's our Central Africa time zone there. We can see it says GMT plus 2. Well, that just means that the Central Africa time zone is 2 hours ahead of GMT, or Greenwich Mean Time. Now in part C we're asked, if it's 3:20 p.m. in Zambia, which is in the Central Africa time zone, what time is it in Angola, which is in the West Africa time zone? Let's see Zambia there, the Central African time zone, that's GMT plus 2. And Angola in the West Africa time zone, that's GMT plus 1. Well, let's draw ourselves up a number line again. Now Angola is going to be further west or to the left of our timeline, and Zambia will be further east or to the right. Now we're told here that it's 3:20 p.m. in Zambia, so put that on our timeline as well. Now to find our time difference, GMT plus 2, we're going back left or west to GMT plus 1. So that's a 1 hour time difference there, isn't it? And we'll take that time difference away. So 3:20 p.m, take away 1 hour, gives us 2:20 p.m. in Angola. Now in part D, we're told that a soccer game is being played in Brazil. That's in the time zone GMT minus 3. That's 7 p.m. on Monday. Molly wants to watch the game in Namibia, and that's in the West Africa time zone. We need to find the local time in Namibia when the game starts. Well, we've got our timeline. We'll draw one up again. We've got Brazil there. That's GMT minus 3. That'll be to the left or the west on our timeline. And Namibia, that's in our West Africa time zone. We can see there, that's GMT plus 1. Now the game is being played in Brazil at 7 p.m. on Monday. So put the time down. Now we're going to find our time difference. GMT minus 3. We're going to the right or the east to GMT plus 1. So from minus 3 to plus 1, that's a 4 hour time difference, isn't it? So we'll add that 4 hours on here. Let's see, 7 p.m. Monday, add 4 hours. Well, she's just going to scrape in. It'll be a late game to watch, but it'll be 11 p.m. Monday. So the local Namibia time is 11 p.m. Monday when the game starts. Fantastic work. That's our lesson on time zones finished. All the best as you work your way through the exercise now.